The second Nike unveiled that logo, the interlocking CCS gleaming like a beacon of brand supremacy, the internet detonated. Sneakers? Crashed. Website? Down. Merch? Gone before it even fully dropped. And right in the middle of the chaos, Aya Wilson, caught in the eye of a PR hurricane she never signed up for, but maybe kind of did. Let's get one thing straight. Caitlin Clark didn't just drop a logo. She dropped a cultural reset, one that hit the WNBA like a meteor from a parallel universe. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Reordering everything in its path. A swoosh-blessed chosen one, crowned not just by Nike, but by market forces, media frenzy, and a nation that couldn't get enough of her deep threes. And did she really just do that? Swagger. Meanwhile, Aya Wilson, two-time MVP, defensive beast, championship ring wearer, and longtime Nike athlete, was watching it all unfold like someone who RSVP'd to the party years ago, but is still waiting for the DJ to play her song. And she didn't stay quiet. Now, she didn't say Caitlin's name outright, but baby, the shade was not subtle. Tweets started flying. Likes got suspiciously spicy, and the timeline turned into a digital courtroom of public opinion. Fans read between the lines, and what they saw was a frustrated queen watching her throne get repainted. And who could blame her? Here's the thing. Aya's been that girl. She's grinded, dominated, smiled to the press conferences, carried a franchise, and racked up accolades like a human trophy shelf. But when it came to brand elevation, Nike had her on the honor roll, not the Billboard Top 100. No signature shoe. No viral merch drops. Just a quiet, respectable presence. And then Caitlin Clark strolls in, fresh off a college loss, and boom, multi-million-dollar rollout, dedicated product line, and a logo that looks ready to headline Paris Fashion Week. If you're Aya, how does that not sting? But let's back up a bit, because before this branding explosion, there were already signs that Caitlin Clark was operating on a different frequency. She was putting up numbers that had ESPN commentators scrambling for adjectives, selling out arenas, sparking rivalries, pulling NBA-level TV ratings. It wasn't just basketball. It was pop culture. She was giving people what they crave in the TikTok era: drama, talent, confidence, and a hint of villain energy. And that sells. Nike didn't just see a player. They saw a movement. So they moved. And when that sleek, interlocking CC logo hit the screen, you could practically hear the boardrooms clapping. It was minimalist, sharp, instantly recognizable. This wasn't just a logo, it was a coronation. Clark was now officially branded at the same level as LeBron, KD, Serena. Not just an athlete, an empire. And Nike's timing? Impeccable. With the WNBA finally basking in mainstream attention, and Clark's every move under a microscope, they dropped this branding bomb when they knew the world was watching. It wasn't just about shoes. It was about symbolism, about who gets to represent the future of women's sports. And in that moment, it wasn't Aya. Cue the discourse. Wilson, who's been Nike loyal for years, has to resume the consistency, the charisma. So why hadn't she gotten her own logo? Why no headline-worthy product line? Why was she still playing second fiddle in the brand symphony, even while dominating on the court? The internet had thoughts. Some fans rallied behind Wilson, saying she'd been disrespected for too long. Others accused her of jealousy, arguing that cultural impact matters more than trophies in today's endorsement game. And then there were those who pointed to the elephant in the room, that uncomfortable, unspoken factor that hovers over a lot of conversations like this. But let's keep it focused on brand, because here's where things get brutal. Clark's merch sold out in minutes. Resellers were listing hoodies and shirts for triple the price. Nike's site buckled under demand like it was a Travis Scott drop. Industry insiders were whispering projections. $100 million, maybe $150 million in revenue once her signature shoe drops. And that's not fantasy. That's Clark's first real foray into mass market branding. She hasn't even played a full WNBA season yet. Wilson? She's got shoes. She's had campaigns. But none of them lit up the culture like this. No mass hysteria. No site crashes. No teens lining up for pre-orders. That's not a critique. It's a reality check. The market speaks, and sometimes it screams. Now, does that mean Clark's better? Not necessarily. Sports aren't math equations. But in the cold world of corporate branding, metrics matter. And Nike, like every giant, chases attention. That's why Clark got the call. Because she's not just a baller, she's a brand. The kind that drives engagement, headlines, memes, and dollars. Her fan base stretches far beyond Iowa, far beyond basketball. She's got moms, dads, teens, kids, and every sports podcast host in her corner. That's power. That's marketability. And honestly, that's what brands want now. Gone are the days when a string of MVPs guaranteed a signature shoe. Today, it's about who can sell a story, who can move units, who can crash a website just by showing up. Nike didn't ignore Wilson. They just made a choice. A loud, calculated, slightly savage choice. And let's be real, Aya felt it. Her subtle barbs, her pointed likes, her almost but not quite comments. They weren't just petty. They were human. The kind of reaction anyone would have after watching someone else get crowned for a kingdom you helped build. But here's the twist. This might be the moment that makes Aya's brand finally pop. Because controversy drives engagement. And now the world is watching her, too. Is she going to clap back? Will she double down? Is she about to flip this narrative and make herself the underdog hero in a suddenly unequal branding war? The stage is set. And Nike? Oh, Nike's loving it. Because now, we're not just talking about Clark. We're talking about the drama, the rivalries, the stakes. It's the kind of attention the WNBA has been dreaming of, and Clark's logo was the spark. Let's be clear, none of this diminishes Wilson's greatness. She's a legend. She's earned her flowers. But this whole saga shows in the age of influencer athletes, accolades alone aren't enough. You need the it factor, the moment, the movement. And Clark? She walked in with all three. So where does this leave us? Clark's getting her shoe. Her logo's probably going to be slapped on everything from backpacks to billboards. She's Nike's golden girl now, and unless someone comes in with Taylor Swift-level charisma and a triple-double average, that's not changing anytime soon. Wilson, on the other hand, is standing at a crossroads. Will she stay the steady force, letting her game speak and ignoring the noise? Or will she lean into the moment, demand her spotlight, and force brands to recognize what they've overlooked? Whatever happens, one thing is clear. The branding game in women's sports just leveled up, and there's no turning back. So next time you see that CC logo, remember, it's not just about Caitlin Clark. It's about who gets to define the future, who gets to be the face, not just a stat sheet, and who gets left watching, wondering when the world will finally see what they've been doing all along. Oh, and Nike? Congratulations. You just set women's sports on fire. Again, if you got thoughts on the Wilson versus Clark marketing saga, we definitely want to hear them. Are you Team Aya, demanding respect for the vets? Or are you all in on the Clark era, where cultural clout rules all? Drop your takes in the comments. Tell us who you think really deserves the next big shoe deal. And of course, subscribe for more wild meltdowns, pop culture chaos, and corporate plot twists. Because in the world of sports branding, this was just the tip of the swoosh. And listen, if you're still here thinking, well, isn't there enough room for both? You're adorable. Of course there should be room for multiple queens at the table. But this is Nike. This is capitalism. This is the Hunger Games of endorsement dollars, where only the loudest, flashiest, most marketable contender gets a crown. And right now, that crown is firmly sitting on Caitlin Clark's ponytail. What makes this even messier is how sudden it all feels. One day, Aya Wilson is the pride of Nike women, carrying the Las Vegas Aces, face of campaigns, quietly consistent. The next, she's being overshadowed by a rookie who hasn't even gotten her feet wet in a playoff game yet. It's like showing up to your own birthday dinner and realizing someone else is blowing out your candles. And the optics of it all? Oh, they're not subtle. The massive rollout, the breathless sports media coverage, the Nike campaigns practically dripping with investment. You could practically feel the marketing budget tripling overnight. And meanwhile, Wilson's fans are in the corner, screaming into the void like, hello? Two-time MVP over here? It's the kind of thing that makes you start asking uncomfortable questions. Because if accolades, leadership, winning don't get you the signature shoe, what does? Apparently, it's about virality. Buzz. That elusive sparkle that makes you not just good, but undeniable. And Caitlin Clark? Like it or not, she's undeniable right now. She's not just a moment. She is the algorithm. Every time she touches a basketball, a camera lens follows. Her highlights hit SportsCenter before the buzzer sounds. She's been memed, gifed, stitched, and TikToked into the cultural bloodstream. Nike saw that and said, yep, that's our future. And in doing so, they basically told Aya, thanks for your service. Because let's be real, this wasn't just a brand move. This was a message, a declaration. Nike didn't just choose Clark. They anointed her. They lit a signal flare visible from every arena, locker room, and boardroom in the industry. This is who we're betting on. This is who gets the logo. Everyone else, take a number. And look, we're not saying Aya Wilson should have had a signature logo years ago. Okay, no, actually we're saying that. Because when you're a two-time MVP in your prime with personality, style, and enough highlight reels to fill an entire YouTube channel, how you not get your own shoe, or logo, or massive product line? That's not a rhetorical question. That's a red flag. It's almost poetic, really. You work your whole career, grinding in a league that's constantly fighting for respect, and just as a tide started to turn, boom, someone else gets your moment. And they didn't steal it maliciously. They just happened to walk in when the spotlight was finally charged and ready to shine. Caitlin Clark didn't take anything from Aya Wilson, but Nike didn't offer it to Aya in the same way. And that's what stings. And don't get it twisted. Wilson's not just bitter tweeting into the void. She knows the game. She knows what sells. She's been navigating this branding minefield her whole career. But when your hard-earned legacy gets casually overshadowed by someone whose merch gets more airplay than your championship wins, yeah, that'll rattle you. Even if you don't show it, you feel it. And if Nike's move is any indication of where things are headed, it's not just about basketball anymore. It's about entertainment value. Flash, reach, viral juice. That G in Issei is qua that makes someone marketable beyond the sport. Wilson plays to win. Clark plays to win and trend. And unfortunately, in the sneaker wars, trending wins every time. But here's where it gets juicy. The fans are now part of the drama. There are Clark stans who treat her logo like the second coming of Air Jordans. They'll defend her to the death, armed with stats, screen recordings, and sassy tweets. And then there's the Wilson truthers, those who see this entire situation as a disrespectful snub, a deliberate erasure of a legacy that deserves more. And in the middle of this, Nike, probably swimming in engagement metrics, sipping iced matcha in a glass conference room, grinning from ear to ear, because controversy sells. And if people are arguing over logos and merchant equity in women's sports branding, that means they're watching. And watching means buying. And buy means more power to Nike's already infinite empire. So what happens now? Wilson has two options. Keep her head down, let her game do the talking, and hope the culture catches up. Or pivot, step into the chaos. Make noise, own her frustration, demand the treatment she deserves. Lean into the narrative, because right now, she's on the verge of something bigger. She's no longer just a player. She's a symbol of every woman who's done everything right, climbed the ladder, smiled politely, and still got overlooked for someone shinier and newer. And that's powerful. If she plays this right, she could turn this whole thing on its head. She could redefine what staying power looks like. She could be the slow burn success story that ends up more respected than the trend. But that depends on what comes next. Is Nike going to expand her line? Offer her the same treatment? Is another brand going to swoop in and say, hey, Aya, we see you? Or is this one of those moments where the culture moves on and we're left wondering how the hell we let greatness fade quietly? That's the part that stings most. The silence. The absence of a statement from Nike or a plan to elevate both players equally. The refusal to acknowledge that two women can be icons at the same time, without one erasing the other. And look, we're not asking for a Disney ending here. This isn't a let's all share the spotlight kind of industry. It's a brutal, cutthroat, billion-dollar brand battlefield. But if this whole situation proves anything, it's that the rules are changing. Performance isn't enough anymore. You need story, drama, cultural pull. And Wilson's got a story now, one filled with tension, pride, and justice, and that simmering need to be seen. That's a brand waiting to happen. So maybe, just maybe, this Nike Clark Wilson fiasco is the beginning of something bigger. Maybe it's the spark that ignites real investment across the board. Maybe brands start waking up and realizing that MVPs deserve more than polite applause. Maybe this isn't just about shoes and logos. It's about finally giving women's sports the layered, complex, messy, real storytelling it's always deserved. And that's where we all win. But until then, the drama continues. Because here's the kicker. This entire branding circus, Clark's viral merch, Wilson's public frustration, Nike's calculated silence, has officially turned women's basketball into a full-on spectacle. Not just in the wow, look at that dunk way, but in the did you see what she just posted on IG? Way. And honestly, that's the kind of chaos the league has needed for years. It's messy, it's emotional, it's personal, and people can't stop watching. But let's not pretend this whole situation is happening in a vacuum. There are layers to this drama, years of them. The WNBA has been begging for mainstream attention, clawing for airtime, and begging brands to treat these athletes with the same reverence as their NBA counterparts. For decades. And now that attention is finally here, but it's not arriving in a balanced or fair way. It's arriving wrapped in exclusivity. It's arriving as a highlight reel of one face. It's arriving with the world whispering, why her and not them? And maybe that's the most frustrating part for Aya Wilson, that after all the blood, sweat, and triple-doubles, this is how she's reminded of her place in the brand food chain. Not with a press release, not with a thank you, but with a sudden shift in attention so loud, so obvious, it might as well come with flashy marquee. We're moving on. It's not just that Clark is getting her flowers. It's that they're being handed to her in a bouquet so big it blocks out the sun for everyone else. And Wilson? She's standing in the shadows of someone else's spotlight, squinting, waiting, wondering. Was I ever going to get that kind of shine? Or was I just the warm-up act for someone else's moment? That's not bitterness. That's heartbreak, dressed in professionalism. Because Wilson has played the game on and off the court. She's shown up to every media day, put in the hours, carried her team, and smiled through every, well, don't you think the WNBA needs more visibility? Question like it wasn't a million times someone asked. She's done everything right. And now she's watching someone who's barely dipped a toe in the league cannonball into superstardom with a logo, so clean it looks ready for a Times Square billboard. And let's talk about that logo for a second. Those interlocking CS? They're elegant, bold, perfectly designed to be slapped on shoes, shorts, backpacks, phone cases, mugs, you name it. It screams legacy, like someone somewhere already decided Caitlin Clark was going to be the one. Not eventually. Not if she earns it. Now, Nike didn't just bet on her future. They fast-tracked it. And again, that's not Caitlin's fault. She's great. This isn't a takedown of her talent. You can recognize her rise and still ask why it came at the cost of everyone else's spotlight. Because here's the thing. If Clark is a chosen one, what does that make Wilson? A cautionary tale? A benchmark? A name mentioned in think pieces titled The Ones Who Came Before? Nah, that's not how it should go. Wilson is still at her peak. She's dominating. Her stats don't lie. Her game speaks for itself. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world where stats are the only currency. We live in a world where moments matter more than medals. And Caitlin Clark? She arrived with a moment, a made-for-TV, internet-breaking, brand-gushing moment that Nike couldn't resist. One that feels so monumental, it's starting to rewrite the hierarchy in real time. That's what this is, isn't it? A rewriting of the rules, a realignment of value, a recalibration of who matters and why. Because what Wilson is feeling isn't just exclusion, it's obsolescence. And that's terrifying for any athlete, especially one who's worked her whole career to be seen. It's like being the lead in a hit show for 6 seasons and then suddenly finding out they're recasting the role and doing a reboot while you're still under contract. You're standing there in the middle of your prime, and the audience is already cheering for the newcomer before you've even had your final scene. And for what? For numbers? For likes? For cultural momentum? Apparently, yeah. But that's where things get interesting. Because Wilson's response, however subtle, isn't just a reaction. It's an invitation. She's giving people permission to ask the hard questions, to interrogate the system, to push back on the idea that success should only come if you're shiny and brand new. And maybe, just maybe, that's her real superpower right now. She's not just a player anymore. She's a mirror, reflecting the inequalities, exposing the cracks in the foundation, asking, without even raising her voice, "Do you really see us? Or are you just pretending until someone more marketable shows up?" And that question, it hits hard, because if it can happen to Aya Wilson, one of the most accomplished players of her generation, it can happen to anyone. So now, the real story isn't about logos or shoes or million-dollar projections. It's about legacy, respect, visibility that doesn't hinge on who trends faster. It's about a league standing at a crossroads, deciding whether it wants to build something sustainable and inclusive, or just chase the next viral wave until it crashes. Caitlin Clark isn't the villain here. She's a product of the system, a system that finally opened its wallet, but only wide enough for one. The villain, the real villain, is the idea that there can only be one. That's the trap. And Nike, knowingly or not, fell right into it. They could have used this moment to uplift everyone, to create parallel paths, to celebrate Clark and honor Wilson, to show the world that women's sports is big enough for more than one face, more than one logo, more than one narrative. But they didn't. They played favorites. And now the world is watching the fallout, like it's the season finale of a drama we didn't know we were binge-watching. So here we are, Aya Wilson, still winning, still leading, still putting up numbers that make sports analysts weep, but now with a side of simmering tension. A quiet fire that's starting to burn a little hotter every time her name gets left off a headline. Caitlin Clark, the new face of the league, the logo, the merch queen, the walking buzzword, living proof that if you arrive with enough hype, the world will roll out the red carpet, whether you want a ring or not. And Nike? Well, they lit the match. Let's see if they can handle the smoke. If you made it this far, you already know you're part of the story now. Whether you're posting, commenting, arguing on forums, or just watching from the sidelines, you're in it. This isn't just sports anymore. It's narrative warfare. So what do you think? Is Caitlin Clark being unfairly favored? Or is she simply the right star at the right time? Did Nike snub Aya Wilson? Or is this just business as usual in the cutthroat world of sports branding? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation isn't going away. And if Wilson decides to speak up louder, if she turns this moment into a movement, you'll want to be able to say you were here when it started. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We got plenty more meltdowns, plot twists, and pop culture power plays coming your way.